When I was 7, my mother decided to stop combing my hair for 2 reasons. Number 1, she thought I looked better with dreadlocks. And number 2, she didn't want to have to go through the hassle of me screaming and crying and shouting as she tried to comb through it. So instead, she sent me to school every single day with a ball of rat's nest atop my head. When I was 11, she decided that she liked it better down. So she would fluff it up and blow dry it and leave me with a heat-trapping, bug-catching net on top of my head. And I would walk around with frizz and gel and disappointment looming all over me. When I was 14, I realized that I had control over my hair, and so, in defiance, I wore it in a bun on top of my head for 3 straight years. But when eventually I let my blonde locks fly, I was met with gasps from women who would have died for my curls in the 70s, but also laughs from their children who mocked me for not having hair nearly as straight as theirs. Every day when I came home, I would find pencils and spitballs and pieces of chewed up candy because people felt like they were entitled to touch and poke and prod and leave whatever they wanted in there. So when I came to Minerva, I thought I finally had the chance to define myself for something other than this single physical attribute. But instead, I found that people packaged me up and put me in the same box of stereotypes and assumptions. Anytime anyone saw anyone with even slightly curly or wavy hair, they thought it was their duty as a citizen of the world to run home and tell me that there was someone who looked a little bit like me out there, so maybe I shouldn't feel so alone. And after a while, people started to give me tips and tricks and tell me how to make it look softer and nicer and a little bit more like theirs. And they gave me bottles of conditioner and how-to videos, and they told me that I shouldn't be so mad at my curls because maybe one day I would learn to love them. If maybe one day I would learn to manage them. But the problem was never that I didn't love my curls. The problem was that no one saw me for anything but my curls. Nobody ever commented on my intellect, my curiosity, my wit, even my other physical features, including my face or my shoulders or my elbows or my hips, my knees, my ankles, or even my toes. Everybody looked at me and only saw one thing. And so, on a cold Berlin evening, I decided to shave off every last curl. But the reaction I expected wasn't exactly what I had got, how naive I was. Initially, people told me that I was beautiful, and they said, "Oh my God, I am so impressed that you were willing to take such a risk on your appearance." But eventually, people reverted to their same old ways, and they would touch it, and they would feel it, and they would tell me how to make it better and how to make it look nicer, and they felt that they had control over the way that I looked. But the worst was when people gave me their completely unsolicited thoughts on what they wanted me to hear about my hair. My favorite was when a friend walked into my room and said, "I don't like your hair. Can I tell you why?" And of course, despite my objection, they enumerated their reasons as number 1, "I think you're asserting a feminist statement," or number 2, "You have cancer," or number 3, "You're a lesbian," none of which I'm particularly into. But worse than that was a few weeks later when I was walking by myself down the street, and 3 girls took to throwing me into a wall because of my hair. And as I lay crouched on the ground crying, I pulled my coat over my head, ashamed and disgusted that I let myself walk around looking like a naked mole rat all this time. And I wanted more than anything in that moment to have my long and frizzy and disastrous curls so at least I could hide my face. But after a while, I wiped off the tears, and as I walked home, I couldn't help but disbelieve that I had let these girls determine how I felt about my hair that night. And I couldn't believe that I let people determine how I felt about my hair for my entire life. And I couldn't believe that I let people determine how I felt about myself my entire life. Because when it comes to me, my opinion is the only opinion that matters, especially when it comes to my body and my hair. And so let me tell you guys, because none of you seem to be able to hear it, if I want your goddamn opinion, I will ask. If I want to know what you think, I will ask. If I want you to touch my fuzzy head in between your readings, or if I want to know what conditioner you use, or hear from the moms who gasp because of my curls, with my long hair. But I didn't ask because I do not care. So, although I appreciate your completely unsolicited opinion, I don't care, and I never should have.